We welcome you to the Priscilla R. Tyson Cultural Arts Center for our conversations and coffee on this 19th day of October. I'm Ellen O'Shaughnessy, coordinator of the program. Let's take a moment of silence to be with the suffering and dying individuals and families through the devastating war in Israel and Gaza. We thank you, Ruth Lorraine, for your being with us today, a dedicated writer reflecting only about love. Love in all of the forms that you've experienced thus far. Ruth shares that she writes about wonderful, caring, spiritual, nurturing, addictive, loyal, bad, fortifying, ugly, and nasty kinds of love that she has seen and heard about and participated in. Ruth's titles are Love in the 21st Century, a poetry collection of 2011. The Sonnets, a love leaflet for your bedside table, poetry collection 2013. A Child is Born, a play, Christmas pageant 2014. All's Fair, poems from the thin line that separates love and hate, poetry collection 2020. And two children's books entitled You Can't Bully Me, I'm Wild, and I May Be a Fire Breath Trash Talking Dragon. And today, we have the formal release of Ruth's new novel, I See the Stars. The book has been previewed by select readers and has received high praise for the richness of the characters, the ability to transport the reader through a page-turning journey through trauma, healing, and grace. I See the Stars. Congratulations, Ruth.
Thank you so much.
And we're delighted to have you with us today, sharing your vision.
Thank you so much, Ellen. So today, I appreciate you all coming and joining it with me in this most joyous journey. This novel, it started 11 years ago. It is a novel that started because I wanted to retell a story. I had a mom who loved to tell me stories about our hometown. Not sure which ones were true or false, but she did keep me entertained. And so from some of those stories, some of them weren't great, but I did know some of the folks in those stories. And so when one of the characters passed away, I thought about changing her story, because there's one thing you can do about history is if you write it in a book, sometimes it becomes believable. So I started this journey. It took me approximately 4 months to write, 10 years and 10 edits. And now on the 11th year, the book is now here for you all to read and enjoy. The book, I'd like to read the back of the book to you to give you an idea of what's inside. So they always say never judge a book by its cover, but please do. The book is set in Ohio. So you see what's on the back? Corn. We love our corn here in Ohio. And it gives us such a rich beginning. There's something about the way that it grows that is sort of, it's kind of indicative of us Ohioans. It grows and it weathers. And so This novel is a hauntingly descriptive story about a girl, a boy, and a baby that must run for their lives with nowhere to run and no reason to. A story based on a fact told to the author by the black sheep of the family. You will read about good people, good words, and good times. You will also read about bad people, ugly words, and tragic times. In addition to funny times, loving words, and the best kinds of people, such as life, heal on. And so that's what's in the book. So when you get a chance to look inside, you will have an opportunity to be transported along with the characters. This is the formal cover of the novel, and here are some of the reviews. The book was actually released to a select group of readers, as Mary Ellen mentioned, in order to figure out who likes it and who doesn't. And so I let several folks, about 15 folks, read the book prior to today. After today, anyone can read it, but I wanted to get a honest perception by several folks of different demographics. And here's what we found out. We found out that it's a beautiful story, the polarized journey of suffering and peace and good and evil. I read half of it in just one sitting, trying to see those sweet kids to safety. You created something entirely wonderful. Thank you, Christy. I was kind of triggered at first, to be honest, but I kept reading because I hoped and wanted to see the other side. And I really liked it. And I laughed at some of the characters because I knew some people like them. Thank you, Terry. I finished the book, and I have to say that the characters are still with me. Each one, whether pure in their hearts or full of villainy, was drawn with such depth that I wanted to get to know them even beyond the pages of the book. I was delighted to see the villains get their comeuppance. And so that's what we heard from the folks who have already read the book. Some folks who are on their way today, I'm not sure if it's Columbus traffic or not, but we're Ohioans, we roll with it, so to speak. And so I will actually go ahead before the questions get here. And when I started the book, every book that I've ever read that really made me not want to put it down or stay up past 3 a.m. to see what happened, it dropped me right in the middle of the story, and it held on to me. And so that's how I wanted to start my own novel, is I wanted to drop you right into the story. I also want to tell you a bit about, I'd like to expand on Terry's perception of the book. She said that it triggered me at first. And I want you to really understand the depth of that statement, because this book is a book set in Ohio with its seasons, the good and the bad. And this book is part of the healing and hope of the Me Too movement. So things have happened in this world where we've sort of maybe missed an opportunity to expand and help in that area. And so when the Me Too movement happened, it gave people a voice. People who didn't really want to talk about things, people who were afraid to talk about things, people who didn't know if what happened to them was right or wrong. And so what I wanted to do in this book is I wanted to go ahead and point the finger and allow folks who are in the Me Too movement to point the finger and say it was wrong. And so in order to do that in this book, I had to paint the picture of the ugly people. And I had to paint the picture to let you know how bad those people are. I know it's hard to believe there are bad people. People want to believe the best in all of us. And it's okay in some cases. But we also need to know the truth. And once you get to the truth, you get to the future and you get to a healing place. And not only a surviving place, but a thriving place. And so in this book, I created a happy ending. And so what you heard Jean said about seeing the villains get their comeuppance, they do in this book. They don't always in real life. But when you write the novel, you get to create the happy ending yourself. And so that's what I did here. And so I'm just wanting to decide what part I can read actually on public access television. Because let's be honest, now there are words in this book, but I promise you I'm just the messenger. I do not agree with anything said or done by the bad people in this book. I know they were villains. That's what they are. I don't agree with them. I'm just the messenger. All the good people in the book, I believe everything they say. I agree with them. I support them. I'm clapping for them. And I thank them for being the good characters in the book. So what is, we have a question. We have a question.
Triggered you.
So
Ada wants to know.
So for me, it didn't trigger me so much, but I did have a reader. Her name is Terry, and Terry is 74 years old. She's a church-going lady, and when she read the book, she said that it triggered her. And by triggered, what she meant is that it reminded her of something that happened and immediately gave her an emotion. So that was what happened with Miss Terry when she read some of the things that the villain said. Because unfortunately, Miss Terry had heard some of those things in her life. And when she read them, it brought back some things. But Miss Terry also said that she was also able to laugh at some of those people. By the end of the book, she was able to laugh out at how ridiculous they were for doing such things. So, yeah. Let's go ahead and see if there's any other questions before I.
Age group for this book?
So the book started out, I wanted to write a young adult fiction novel when I first started out. And so what I started to do that, you have to have a protagonist and antagonist. So a hero and a villain of the age group of that young adult fiction. And so this book started out that way. After letting some folks read it, they said, maybe it's not young adult fiction, Kamika, or Ruth, or Terry, or Christy, or the folks who had read it. And I said, well, I think it is. But at the same time, I have it open for anyone who is ready to read a good book. So personally, I was never censored as a child. I was allowed to read anything. We weren't allowed to watch everything, but I was allowed to read anything. And so this book is one of those books where there are characters of every age group in it. So I'm not sure if it can any longer be classified.
I'm thinking I have a 13-year-old granddaughter, and I just would really love to read it. I just wanted to hear what.
And I'll tell you,
would be able to understand what you're talking about as she does it.
So I think she would be able to understand it, but I think it is a book. If a 13-year-old was reading it, I think it's a book that she should read with her mother. honestly, with an adult. So that, and I think it would be a great practice that they would do that together, because it does gives clear views of what good and bad looks like. And so I think that would be helpful, and I think it would be fun, and I think that would bring up some serious topics. There are X-rated in some ways scenes, but today's children aren't the children of yesterday. And I'm the messenger. And so even though I'm a nice lady, I can be the messenger and say, I can say and describe the same things you see on television in a way that will stay still, only to describe. So, any other questions?
You edited it 10 times?
Yes. So, yes. So, because I was living life over the last 11 years and being an author, it was one part of my life. I did keep my day job. And so it did take 10 years to edit it. And I edited it 10 times in those 10 years. And I did it personally because I believed that the story was one that if I involved someone else in the edits, it may change the story that I wanted to tell. And so I was very protective over it. It was my baby in some ways. I watched it grow and change as I learned more about writing, as I studied more about the things that I wanted to get across. So I kind of wished it would have been done earlier, but the growth process was very helpful. And I think it made it the best book. Yes, sir.
Do you ever get writer's block?
So I honestly, I don't want to seem hoity-toity, but no, I don't. I've never had writer's block. I studied writers. One of the best. One, of course, I'm afraid of horror stories, but I study writers. And Stephen King had once said that in order to avoid writer's block, you have to create the scene over and over again. So the scene in which helped you write, you must recreate that every time you want to write. And so I created a writer studio, and it's not a beautiful room inside of a great building, but it's a mental writer studio. And so what I do is I will listen to a song on repeat, usually Sam Cooke or Smokey Robinson, and I'll listen to one of their, for this book, I listened to You're Always on My Mind by Sam Cooke over and over again. And I was able to get the words out no matter where I was, because the story would start to play after the music would start to play again. So that's one of the things that I learned from a great writer, one of the greatest, is that in order to avoid writer's block, you must recreate that scene in which you were able to write.
So how many books have you written total?
So at this time, I have 3 that are published. 2 are here. Today is the debut of my novel, my one and only novel. And thank you. And so in total, I've written about 6 books and incomplete. There are books in the works, which I'm excited about. But for now, the ones that are available are the 3 that are published. The first book is the Sonnets. The second one is also here, All's Fair. And then this one is the 3rd that I have published. In about 2 months, I'll also be publishing The Christmas Pageant, that I wrote for children. It's a musical, and it's available to all religious organizations for free.
I had seen behind on the screen, it said something about children book. I thought, I was trying to read it, but I couldn't.
Yeah. So, so my two children's books. The first one is called "You Can't Bully Me, I'm Wild," and so my children's books are hilarious. They are themed. That one clearly is about bullying. The other book is "You May Be a Fire Talking Trash Breathing Dragon," and it is a themed book, and it's deep, but it is about children who have parents who are addicted. And it is a story that it speaks to a lot of the children of the world today. And I'm very proud of that one for the reasons that it allows. I'm really good in my books about pointing the finger. I don't do it a lot in my real life, but in my books, I think it's an opportunity to do that. So in that book, I point the finger at the children and say, "You're still great. Whatever's happening started way before you were born." So, those are the two children's books. They're not actually available yet on the market. They are coming soon. But so for today, we are mainly talking about my release of my novel, I See the Stars. In I See the Stars, let me ask if there's any other questions before we go more into
With the title.
how did I come up with the title? Okay, so the title, I See the Stars. Have you ever heard that before, that phrase? Yeah. Where? Okay. So it's actually just a piece of a song. It's a Christian hymn called "How Great Thou Art," and it's the first line, "I see the stars."
The stars.
Yes. How great thou art. Yes. And so that's where the title came from. The characters in the book are children of religious people. They play a role. They play a role in their churches. So the protagonists in the books, the heroes in the book, they're children of people who practice, and they go to a place every week and they play a role. And so the title of the book, I See the Stars, it encompasses the idea that these two can still see the stars beyond what is happening right in front of their faces, what they're experiencing in life, and everything that they've seen. Because you're in Ohio and you can see the stars at night. If you go out into the woods, you can see the stars. If you are in a small town in Ohio, you will see so many stars no matter what's happening. And so, because I am probably one of the most proud Ohioans you'll ever see, this book will put you here. If you've never been here, when you read this book, you will be here. You will know what it smells like to be in Ohio in the summer. You'll know what it feels like. You'll know that you can see the stars. And you will experience what it's like to be a real Ohioan, the people who just keep going. And so that's where the title came from. Yeah.
The illustrations on the book.
So I honestly do the cover art for my books. The cover art, it was in my head. I'd asked several artists if they could possibly help me with this. I talked to other authors. They told me to Google images and use an image from Google or purchase one. There are many sites where you can purchase cover art for your book. And and even after I sat down for this, and took me a few minutes and then did this one, Even still, I was still given the advice, hey, you should definitely go ahead and purchase one of those images because she said, I hate to tell you this, but folks hate when authors do their own cover art. It's too much. And I just said, well, I know I'm a writer, but Michelangelo always said he was a sculptor, not a painter. And so I love reading autobiographies, and he painted the Sistine Chapel and we love it still today, but he claimed he was a sculptor. So I did my own cover art. We'll see how it turns out. Thank you. Yes.
Yes, I really like how you did the corn and the cabin. It just brings you into the book itself.
Thank you. Yeah. And the funny story, one of the reasons I have the corn, it's Ohio. There are scenes where I talk about the cornfields, but it's honestly the first descriptive essay I wrote in 6th grade that anyone ever paid attention to was about corn.
Is there a certain setting in Ohio where this is taking place at?
Yes. So the book is, some folks would say it is sort of a period piece. It is set in Ohio in 1922. And that's where it starts. So it does take place in a small town. And so it wouldn't describe, a city of today, but it would describe a town of yesterday. And anyone who's over 40, who's ever lived in a small town, and then folks who are under 40 and still live in a small town would be able to identify with where it's set. And the ideology, I think folks have watched tons of TV, folks have read lots of books, so it'll be familiar with even still being set a little ways back.
Is it an imaginary town?
So it's actually a fact-based fiction. So I think the best stories are ones that have facts in them.
Tell us where it is.
Will I tell you where the fact is? I know this is, do you know how long I've been practicing for this question? So I will say that there are several facts in this book because there are so many things that are true in this book. Will I tell you the fact that sparked the book is the main subject of the book. A brother and a sister had a child. And how do you describe that? And how does the small town live with that? How do the people involved lived with that? And the real question is, how did they ever get there? Yes.
You think small towns are losing their flavor with all the with internet and cell phones and stuff?
Well, I think that small towns will always have certain things. So yeah, we do have outside influence, but there are some things that will never change about small towns, which is everyone's going to know everyone's business. There will be certain classes in small towns. That's something that I think maybe folks in big cities don't understand, is that there's a class system in small towns. In most small towns, not so much racial divides, but there's a class divides. And so that's one of the things that will always be in small towns. And then there's always going to be big groups of faith in small towns. Everybody's going to go to church, and the ones that don't go to church are going to be talked about by the ones who do go to church, and vice versa. So those things are always going to be in small towns, no matter what the outside influences become. That's what I believe.
Grown up in a small town?
I did for most of my upbringing. I did. I grew up in a small town, and then we'll always have roots there because of family. So it's still my small town. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So did anyone who has read the book, did you pick out anything that you wanted to hear about today? No.
Could you say that again, please?
I asked if any of the people who have read the book, if they had any pieces that they wanted me to read from today.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Of individuals, I can tell, that have read the book.
Yes. Yes, a couple showed up, and it's this. I wanted to do this book release here with you, Ellen, because and Miss Tyson and is here. Thank you so much for coming. And I wanted to do it here. There were many opportunities to do my book release in other places at other times, but this is prestige. This is a place where we have decades of artists coming to talk with the people who have supported them, to give feedback, and just people who are lovers of art get an opportunity just to talk with someone. Most people who love art don't create art. And so this is an amazing opportunity for those people who love art to get this insight, the inside. What's it look like in the mind of a writer? What does it look like in the mind of a painter? And that's what this platform has done for so long. So I said I'm doing it at noon on a Thursday on October 19th. And that's when I'm doing it. And I will have another book release sort of party in the evening for folks who couldn't make it today, who still have questions, and who still want to hear me read from the book. We will do that later. The information will be on my Facebook page as to when that will be. Everyone is still invited. And also there's some information over on the table as well. Just make sure everyone, before you leave, grab a free bookmark. I hope you will start your reading journey back up with me or someone else.
When you're writing, sometimes do you lose time and you're just sitting there and then you look at the clock and there's 5 hours went by?
Well, I wish that I could say that. That would be so awesome. That's what I'm working towards, is that I will have a point in my life when I can do that. But the way it's been with, I have children and even a grandchild. So I haven't had the opportunity to sit and write for 5 hours at a time that I can recall. But that does sound like a great time. It really does. I will say the most challenging times that I've written and some of the big blocks is when my children were at their swim practices and they would swim for 3 or 4 hours practicing. And I would sit on the sidelines with my headphones in and get some blocks of writing out. Yes.
Where's your favorite place to write?
Want to repeat that?
Where's your favorite place to write?
So I would say my favorite place to write is probably in my room at home. My favorite time to write is the rain. I love writing when it's raining outside. There's something about the rhythm of the rain. It's like music, but but it's more of like a metronome. It just keeps the beat. It keeps the words going. Because I am first a poet, the rain does bring out my wonderful melancholy sometimes and can help me get some thoughts out. So,
Melancholy,
yes.
my favorite word.
Oh, yes. So, well, poets, that's the great thing and also the not so great thing. But yes, the melancholy does help with the rain.
I once heard that during Victorian times it was regarded as the darker black temperament, but in recent times it turns out that it was the most productive of all temperaments.
I have to agree entirely. Um, Thank you for sharing that. That's enlightening for me and I think helpful. Yeah.
So I have a question. You're a poet and then you wrote a book.
Yes.
What does the inside of your book look like because you're a poet? Do you organize your paragraphs? Is there a rhythm that comes in everything when you read, or is it completely different behavior?
Yes. So that's a great question. So yeah, and I think it's a great question because it is true. It doesn't read like your normal novel. Because I am a poet. And I think what she is saying for folks who may not be following our train of thought here is that when you are a poet, the words must look a certain way on the paper. It's very important, almost as important as the words that you're writing, as to the way that you put it on paper. So even when you're typing, it's easier when you're handwriting it. Okay, it comes out perfect that way. When you're handwriting it, it automatically is on paper the way you want it to look. But once you start involving a machine and fonts and things like that, it becomes a secondary importance of the words. And so to answer her question, yes, it does look, my book in the inside, it does look like a poet wrote it. You will not have chapters broken up in the way, and in the typical way that chapters are broken up. They're normally chapters are normally broken up sort of as cliffhangers so that you'll read on to the next chapter. That's done when you have a professional publishing company and an editor and a typecast person who decides that this is the way it should look because it's standard and that's what we're used to seeing and it's what we're used to looking at. But because this one was mine and for me, and I'm a poet, it does. The chapters are broken up differently in the way that the chapters are based on the characters. So the character who will have the most impact in the chapter that you're going to read, that will be the title of that chapter.
I've read several books like that where each chapter is the name of the person that's featured in that, or the point of view in that chapter comes from that person.
Yes.
And that allows the writer to move more smoothly and doesn't tie you up to this long.
Right. Yeah. And it's so for other writers, it could be that, they wanted to, have it seen a certain way, like in the way that I put mine down on paper. But it is also a way to make sure that the folks who are reading the book know who to pay attention to. Yeah.
Well,
Speaking of chapters,
I would think it's easier for you to edit. You edit all along, so you don't have a running passage of things. Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was. I think it was easy to edit. I think sometimes for writers that can be one of the processes that ties them up from publishing because you will sometimes re-edit and not know when to stop. And so some of my writer friends, they do come up against that hurdle. For me, they're the end was written before the beginning in this book. I knew the end of the story, so there wasn't that moment of where to stop. So there was just this wonderful roller coaster ride of getting the words out so that you, as the reader, could go with me.
We'd like to go with you for a moment in the chapters of your life. Your hubby back here, husband Daniel, is he holding the little one, the grandchild chair? Are you the mother? Oh, how wonderful. How wonderful. Any other family members here?
Just us three.
Oh, we're
Raised two.
well through the, how beautiful. Any thoughts, any reflections on what you've heard today, what you've experienced? Your mother as a writer. Tell us.
You can do anything.
So my books can be purchased. So today I will be taking orders before I leave for folks who would like to purchase the book directly from me. But tomorrow morning, you will also be able to purchase it on Amazon.
Would you sign it for us?
Yes. And yes, I'm so glad you said that, Ellen. And so honestly, I've made a commitment that as long as I'm selling the books, I will sign every one. So until that moment happens when a publisher decides, hey, we're also going to share in this journey with you, until that happens, which will be soon. Until that happens, I will personally be so grateful to autograph every single book. And it will have a personal message in it as well, because I'm a writer and I can think of things quickly. So
Let's hear from your daughter. What's her thought as she holds the microphone?
So to be completely honest, I haven't finished the book yet, but that's because of this little one here. I was in the process of growing a tiny one, but since having her, I've been able to keep up about halfway through, and the book is amazing. I read the first part of the book when she first wrote it 10 years ago, which is crazy to think about, and it absolutely kept me wanting to keep reading. Me and my best friend were like, well, can we get some more, please? Where's the rest of this? So it's really awesome. And knowing her, when you read the book, it's like she's telling you the story rather than you're just reading a book, by some random person you've never met. And it keeps you going. I always want to read the book. I just haven't, can't find the time right now. And I also want to mention she did dedicate it to me. So also pretty awesome.
What's your name?
I'm Jordan. I'm the oldest. I do have two younger brothers, but now we're all grown. So now she has time to be her. Her name is Raven, and she's only a month old, and she loves her Mimi. So every time she hears a voice, that's why she was trying to make noise earlier. She said, Mimi is not holding me. So, yes.
Daniel,
Yes.
give us some thoughts and reflections on your wife as a writer.
I'm just really proud of her. She's a wonderful woman, and I'm just really grateful to God to have her in my life. And I think it's really awesome that she has the ability to put those words down and tell a story and write poetry. I'm just really proud.
And you go like this, huh? Tell us your name.
My name is Priscilla Tyson, and I'm very soon Priscilla Tyson.
I know.
I'm so delighted to meet you.
Well, thank you. I just recently retired, and so I have certainly made a commitment that on my schedule, I will definitely be coming to these conversations to show, of course, of my support for what happens within this building. And so today, I'm really pleased that I didn't know who I was going to, listen to today. It's just I just decided I'm just going to show up, and whoever's talking, I will learn something from them. And so very pleased to be able to come in and see a woman author to be in this space, sharing a story, and certainly sharing a story that I'm not from a small town. I'm from Columbus, Ohio, but certainly listening to some of the themes that you just stated. Even though some things happen in small towns, they certainly happen in our size city too. So I appreciate that. I also appreciate that that there's certainly a place of God throughout your work, and I'm intrigued by the story. And I'm very excited for you that you are presenting your novel to us here in Columbus, Ohio. And I look forward to reading your book. I do a lot of listening. I do Audible a lot, but certainly I'm so happy to be here to learn about your book and look forward to reading it. So thank you.
Thank you. Coming soon.
Yes, and we look forward to your conversations and coffee, huh?
I look forward to being here, sharing.
Wonderful.
Coming, yes.
Yeah, let's work that
Thank you
through.
so much, Miss Tyson. Have I have worked with you on other levels and during your career. And so when I saw you walk in, I fangirled for a moment, honestly. So just wow, awesome that you have this space and that that you are here on my day. So thanks. I know that's right.
Before time runs out, I would love to hear you. I don't know if you're planning to read an excerpt, and so we want to be sure we hear you. I was saying before we run out of time, I would love to hear her read a little bit from her book. Is that possible?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
And then as she reads from her book, we have who just came in. Tell us.
Older son, Isaac, and this is my younger brother, Andrew.
Isaac and Andrew, sons. Oh, how wonderful. Right. Have,
Question just real quick. Have
Yes.
you been an author all your adult life, or is it just here in the last 10, 15 years that you really caught up with?
So I've written stories my entire life. It honestly started out, my mom used to try to get me to tell her stories about my dreams. And so I would make up these big stories. I never dreamed them. It was just a fake story about a dream. But she liked me. She liked how I would make up stories. And so I always made up stories. And then I started writing the stories. And then it's been 15 years that I have dedicated my all of my other time to writing. Yes.
all right, well, you're going to read a passage then.
She remembered the week before so clearly, walking in the woods that day with her brother, alive, walking beside her. It had been so scary. And it seemed sometimes like it was only a dream. Cobby's pain proved it wasn't. With her clearest soprano voice sounding like the far right side of the piano, Elsie joined Cobby in his song of praise. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. He bent down on one knee, and she climbed on his back for a piggyback ride, like she always did when her legs seemed too short for the hike. Like all good big brothers did to cheer her up their little sisters. Cobby took off running so fast that he didn't mind the pain in his eye. It didn't seem to hurt while his little sister giggled in his ear, sounding like Christmas bells, announcing peace and joy. When they made it to the pond on the last day in August, the heat mixed with the hungry mosquitoes were enough to get both kids to strip and dive right into the water to quickly escape both. The water was cool from the constant shade that the canopy of trees provided. They both splashed their cares away, playing Marco Polo, until they both began to cheat. Laughing, they performed synchronized swimming routines with Cobby as the center dancer. Each squealed when each took turns being an electric eel and pinched their prey. When they were both exhausted from dying laughing without dying from drowning, they lay in the grass looking up at the many colors of the evening sky of the Midwest. The colors so remarkable, with the sun's beams bursting through the canopy created by the birches, oaks, and maples, with the light browns and greens reaching up towards the light blues of the lower sky, with the dark blues and whites mixed together like they were purposefully stirred throughout, blending with the pinks and purples above. When they faced each other, Cobby spoke barely above a whisper. Am I ugly, Elsie?
I so look forward to reading it.
That's nice.
How old are these characters?
So when the book begins, 13 and 14.
Do your sons have any comments? Came in.
What
do you wanna say?
We are very proud of you, and actually, this is awesome. This is our first time seeing her perform live, so we're happy to be here and support.
Thank you.
Does your bro want to add anything there? I can tell on his face. He does.
I was gonna say the same thing. We're very proud.
How's that feel, Mom?
It feels good. It really does. I'm glad to see their faces here. Oh, appreciate it.
You know, I think it's really nice that obviously this is a skill and a talent that you have had all your life, and that oftentimes, you know, other priorities, as you just stated, by, you know, having a family and raising your family and a grandchild and other, you know, there's other things that you had to do. So how does it feel that now at this phase of your life that you now get to really embrace and something that you've always enjoyed doing and sharing your talents with everyone else?
It feels like it's my turn. That's the main thing that it feels like. I remember reading about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, a great writer, Toni Morrison, said, "You can't be a great mom and a great writer at the same time." And I was really mad at her for saying that because my kids were little. But I eventually knew what she meant. You had to choose one because your writing is a baby as well. And it requires all of your attention and your nurturing and care, just like your family. And so it feels great. It feels like it's my time. It feels like there is the time now to daydream so that I can figure out what the next project is.
Ruth Lorraine.
We have one more.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ellen. Thank you. Thank you.
We are so honored to be part of this day.
Thank you so
This
much.
very day.